Hey guys, Sean here and welcome to the F1 Word. Now, at the end of 2017, Pascal Wehrlein lost his seat at Sauber and therefore obviously his place on the Formula 1 grid. And with the rise of the likes of Esteban Ocon and George Russell and of course being a part of the Mercedes setup himself, it did look as though his chances of a return to the sport were slim at best. However, after leaving the Mercedes Junior programme, the German has been heavily linked with a return and is favourite to team up with Daniil Kvyat at Toro Rosso in 2019. But should Pascal Wehrlein be given a second shot in Formula 1? Well, first off, and prior to leaving the Mercedes programme, there had been a lot of talk about him making the move to Formula E with the Mercedes-backed HWA outfit. And if you throw into the mix the fact that he tested for Mahindra Racing, it did look as though a Formula E move was highly likely. In fact, some even reported that it was a done deal. But according to reports over the last couple of days and comments made by the HWA team boss, Wehrlein has apparently turned down multiple options including Formula E and DTM in a bid to land an F1 seat next season. So, although Formula E could well still be an option, Formula 1 is apparently the Germans' priority. And at the end of the day, he is a very good racing driver and did show some strong pace and consistency during his time in F1. And it's quite clear that he does have some talent. I mean, is he world champion material? Honestly, no, I don't think he is. I kind of see him as having the potential to be a strong midfield driver, kind of like at the level of your Perez's and your Hülkenbergs, if you like. And that's not a knock at him in the slightest. They are two very good drivers to be compared to. But the fact is, I don't believe he's anywhere near the level of a Verstappen or a Hamilton or a Vettel when they were at similar stages of their career. And frankly, I would even argue that I don't even think he's at the same level as Esteban Ocon. But as I've already said a couple of times, he is still a good driver and could do a seriously good job for one of the midfield teams. You look at his time during Formula 1, he picked up a point for Manners, something that nobody else was able to do unless, of course, you include the team's time as Marussia, in which case he joins Jules Bianchi as the only point scorers for that outfit. And he also grabbed 5 points in 2017 in a Sauber that was, let's be honest, pretty damn terrible. And of course it had that year-old Ferrari engine on board. However, and cliché line alert, although points do indeed mean prizes in F1, that doesn't really tell the full story. In 2017, Pascal Wehrlein did finish ahead of teammate Marcus Ericsson 7 times, with Ericsson finishing ahead of him 4 times. And yes, absolutely, Wehrlein did outscore his teammate 5-0. However, digging a little bit deeper, and interestingly enough, Ericsson actually spent more race laps ahead of Wehrlein, 432 to 426. And as for the qualifying battle, it was closer than a lot of people seem to remember. Again, Wehrlein did win it 11-7. But the average qualifying gap between the two over the 18 race weekends they competed against each other in was just 0.049 seconds, just under half a tenth. Absolutely nothing. So on paper, he did beat Ericsson comfortably, but when you look a little deeper and consider the times, etc., it was very close between them. And I think you could even argue that without the disadvantage of being a taller driver and therefore having the overall heavier package, Ericsson would have been quicker. In fact, going back and having a look at some older articles, Sauber estimated that the Swede's car was 4 to 8 kilos overweight, and according to Marcus's claims at least, that could have cost him up to 0.3 of a second a lap. I will add as well, I guess to kind of give a more up-to-date reference if you like, he's not exactly been spectacular in DTM this year. Consistent, yes, absolutely, but he is being well beaten by his teammates Gary Paffett and Paul di Resta. But back to F1, and because of how he performed versus Marcus Ericsson, there are more than a few people out there that believe he is simply not good enough for Formula 1 and that he should have taken his opportunity when it came. And to be fair and to kind of look at both sides of the argument, I can see their point. He didn't exactly destroy Marcus Ericsson, and that's a driver that a lot of people consider the worst on the grid. But that's probably a debate for another video. There is also a lot of young talent out there now starting to make their way through the junior series, and you could quite easily argue that some of those are already on a higher level than Pascal was when he made his debut in the sport. But despite all of that, I still feel like he's got a lot of potential and time to grow. He is only 23 years old at the end of the day, so he's far from at his peak as a driver. And on the other side of the argument, there are many who believe that he absolutely deserves to be back in Formula 1. And whilst I personally wouldn't go as far as to say he deserves it, I do tend to lean more towards this side of the argument. He has shown he can deliver points in a bad car, and he's shown that he can deliver in terms of consistency. And that is something that a number of teams will be looking for next season. But if, and it is a big if he gets that chance, where could he go? We've got Williams, Force India and Toro Rosso as the only teams now with vacant seats. However, Force India look likely, if you believe the reports at least, to be signing Sergio Perez alongside Lance Stroll. On that, by the way, I fully expect an announcement somewhere around the Mexican Grand Prix. I really don't think Williams will take him. If they wanted him that badly, they'd have taken him when he was available at the end of 2017. So that does only leave Toro Rosso, a team he has been heavily linked with and is the favourite to partner Kvyat. And I, for one, would love to see that. As I've said before, a team with 2 drivers looking for a shot at redemption. It's a great story. And I still stand by what I've said about Kvyat, and I stand by what I'm saying about Wehrlein. They are both good drivers. And I do like Wehrlein a lot, I make no secret of that. Go back to last December and the start of this year on the channel, and I was livid that he didn't land a seat. But at the same time, I'm not blind. And I know that he isn't exactly the next big thing that many make him out to be. But once again, he is a good driver and would do well in a solid midfield team. And he is better than some of those on the grid already. But I don't ever expect to see him picked up by any of the top teams in the sport. And so perhaps he would suit a team like Toro Rosso, for example. But let's summarise all of this then. And first off, will he be back in 2019? Well, the reports are getting stronger and more frequent. So everything does seem to be saying that there is a very good chance of it. But we have got to be careful with all of this though, because this year's silly season hasn't been shy of throwing us a curveball or two. So favourite or not, there have been a lot of names linked with that seat. And they are people that have also been listed as the most likely to get it, so the favourites tag doesn't mean anything. But despite the number of drivers linked to that second seat, I honestly do think that Toro Rosso are struggling for options. They brought Kvyat back for one, and with their own young drivers nowhere near ready, and Mick Schumacher has also been linked to that seat, not ready in my view, Wehrlein could well be one of their very few options alongside perhaps maybe the likes of Robert Kubica. But all that aside, and perhaps as unpopular as this may well be, I don't see him coming back. But then again, I would never have said that Daniil Kvyat would be back in at Toro Rosso 2 months ago. So you just never know. But finally, do I think he should be given a second chance in F1? Well, given the potential that I believe he still has, and the fact that he didn't exactly do an awful lot wrong during his 2 seasons in the sport, okay, he didn't exactly wipe the floor with Marcus Ericsson, in the same way that, say, Charles Leclerc has. But with all due respect to Wehrlein, he is nowhere near that level of driver. So comparing him to Leclerc isn't a fair comparison in my view, and it's really frustrating to see so many comparing him to Charles. Yeah, alright, it's the obvious comparison to draw, but Leclerc is World Championship winning material, Wehrlein is not, and was clearly not regarded as such by Mercedes, otherwise he would have replaced Nico Rosberg when he retired. But as I've already said a couple of times, he is a solid driver, a good driver, and has the potential to deliver in that midfield. And when you consider, as I've said a few times over the last couple of weeks, some of the bang average drivers at best that will be on the grid in 2019, surely he has to be at least considered by someone for next season. So for me, yes, I don't see why he shouldn't get a second shot in Formula 1, and that's for all the reasons I've already listed in this video. But if that second chance does come, he will have to perform, because Toro Rosso, if he ends up there, will not be shy to ditch him if he underperforms or if another youngster starts to shine through. At the end of the day, and Daniil Kvyat is in exactly the same position, if the chance does come, it will likely be his last chance to prove himself in Formula 1. That is it for this video, and as ever, they were just my thoughts and my opinions, but what are yours? Do you think Pascal Wehrlein should be given a second chance in Formula 1? Do you believe he will return for 2019? And if not, who would you put in that second seat at Toro Rosso? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section down below. I will be back tomorrow at 6 PM UK time for the usual Sunday stream, where I'm sure we'll be talking more about silly season and who could end up filling those final 4 seats. In the meantime though, you can follow me on social media. Links to Twitter, Instagram, Facebook and to Discord are all in the description down below. But as ever, thank you for watching. I've been Sean, this has been the F1 Word, and until next time, goodbye.